Hello and welcome to hour number 2 on this Friday, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. It is the final weekend of the NBA regular season. Forthcoming, 3 more days, Friday, Saturday, into Sunday. It's the early going of a Major League Baseball campaign, and we're finishing out round number 1 bright and early on this Friday, day number 2 at Augusta National Golf Club for the 2024 Masters. Tiger Woods on the course on the 17th hole as we speak, but his playing partner, Max Homa, on an absolute tear. Max almost just jarred one at 17 for an eagle from the fairway. If he taps in, he's going to be at 6 under par, only one shot back of Bryson DeChambeau, who is currently our round 1 leader. A 16-1 price on Homa to be the round 1 leader. You're pretty much betting at 16-1. Can he birdie his 18th and final hole of this opening round? It's like in-game live here on this Friday with the Masters underway already, DRS.
No, it's good stuff all the way through. And by the way, you always like a running mate, too, because typically, has anybody ever played golf before or any sport, when your partner is playing well, it seems to lock you in even more. So if you're Tiger Woods playing with Max Homa, which he will still be in that same pairing in round number 2, that really could invigorate Tiger Woods, watching a guy actually going toe-to-toe and saying, you know what, let me try to match this guy's spirit right now and hopefully make a cut here as Tiger Woods trying to break a record at the Masters by making 1 million cuts in a row. We'll see if that comes up here, but you can't fault it, man. These guys are going low. I didn't see this coming out of the gate, and we're just getting that bonus coverage here in round number 1 as we welcome in the radio audience. You're watching and listening live to a Friday morning Masters edition right here on Sirius XM channel 159 on the SportsGrid network. Donnie right side and Ben Stevens having fun. It's great because we're sitting here at 9 a.m. Eastern, and we got golf out here and major stakes to set you up throughout the weekend here in the best golf tournament of them all, the Masters.
Why didn't you do the read? Why didn't you tell people where they can get live shot-by-shot coverage on Sirius XM?
You want to how about this better read here? Tune in to Donnie Wrights out on a solo mission this afternoon right here on Moneyline, and I'll take you through shot-by-shot here. There's no need to go anywhere, people. Just keep it right here on the SportsGrid network. We got you covered on the Masters all weekend long. Oh, that's a great read, man. That is a great read right there.
Disavow, by the way, we can't give live shot-by-shot play-by-play, but DRS will break down where those live odds are popping up on the money line, 2 p.m. Eastern time today on SportsGrid Radio. All right, final weekend of the NBA regular season. Just 3 days remain here before the postseason begins. That starts next week with the play-in tournament. The actual playoffs exactly 1 week from tomorrow. So here is what is at stake as we look at the playoff picture. First in the Eastern Conference, and then we go to the Western Conference. The top 5 seeds at this moment. Boston, far and away, has clinched that number 1 spot. They'll have the best record by the end of this regular season. They will be at home for every playoff series to begin that they play here throughout the postseason. Milwaukee, a game in front of New York. But the Bucks do not have Giannis Antetokounmpo for the final 2 regular season games. The Cavs 1 game behind the Knicks, and the Cavs with a 1-game advantage right now over the Orlando Magic. By the way, DRS, on this Friday night, all 30 NBA teams in action.
That's fantastic. I love this. And again, we're not supposed to care about the NBA regular season, particularly. Everybody's supposed to be locked up by 2 games left in the regular season, and they're not. And I love the fact that you started with the Milwaukee Bucks, because if you look at their schedule moving forward, it's not like, we'll just cruise into this 2 spot. You got the Thunder, who are playing for the number 1 seed still. You got the Orlando Magic that are actually going to take on the Philadelphia 76ers before they even play the Bucks. So that game is probably going to be to keep them out of the play-in round, which means the New York Knicks could be live to move up with these games that mean so much. It played out perfectly for the NBA, and we should get some really good ratings this weekend. So everybody's playing just about for everything on the line moves here. This is exactly what we want here. A lot of intrigue to end the regular season, and then we get the best part. The playoffs begin, and away we go.
OKC, a 14.5-point favorite at home tonight against Milwaukee without Giannis Antetokounmpo, but the Bucks did win big against the Orlando Magic earlier this week in their first game without Giannis. Orlando is in the 5 spot, but they're 46-34, as are the Indiana Pacers. So same record right now. Orlando 7.5-point road underdog tonight in Philadelphia. Indiana 3-point road underdog tonight in Cleveland. So know what that means here then for a huge game tonight in the city of brotherly love. Could the Sixers get out of the play-in tournament and into the top 6? Philly has won 6 straight. Joel Embiid is back in the lineup, and they're a 7.5-point home favorite tonight. At this current juncture, Philly in the 7 spot, Miami in 8, and we've already clinched the 9-10 matchup in the Eastern Conference play-in tournament. Chicago will host Atlanta next week. The Bulls an early 3.5-point favorite for that matchup.
Yeah, if things hold on, let's just say the Milwaukee Bucks saying that 2 seed. You know who their biggest fan is right now? They are cheering the Philadelphia 76ers on over the next 2 games because they do not want to catch the Sixers in that 7 hole if Giannis is still having issues with that calf injury. It's going to be, fantastic. I think the Philadelphia 76ers do win going away tonight. Then they play Brooklyn to end the season. That should be 2 wins. And you talk about, again, the Orlando Magic. It seems like that is the bullseye here for the Philadelphia 76ers because, number one, they play them, but also the Bucks are going to play the Magic to end that season. And if the Bucks need seeding, they're going to give it their best go. Obviously, we know Giannis won't play there, but my goodness, if I had to bet right now, the Philadelphia 76ers, to me, have a better chance of slipping into that 6 hole than staying in the play-in rounds here by far for me.
So as we see it, and Donnie mentioned it, motivation is going to be baked in and quantified in your numbers. Miami 14.5-point home favorite tonight in South Beach against the Toronto Raptors, who, of course, have been eliminated from playoff contention. Now we go to the Western Conference. So much more is up in the air, including that top spot. However, Denver's final 2 games against the Jazz and the Spurs, and with the Nuggets already having a game advantage for the number 1 overall seed based on the huge win at home against Minnesota a few nights back, Denver seems to be primed for that top overall spot. The Nuggets in 1, the T-Wolves and the Thunder tied right now at 55 and 25. Technically OKC in 2, I believe. Minnesota at 3. No, flip it around. Excuse me. Minnesota in front of Oklahoma City. And then the Clippers and the Mavericks will play each other in the opening round, DRS. We just have to figure out who has home floor advantage. At this moment, it is the Clippers, but the Mavs, the hottest team in the NBA, winners of 5 straight and 16 of their last 18, only a game behind LA.
Yeah, you take a look at that 4-5 matchup, which if it is the playoff matchup, and that is awesome, man. The Clippers going up against the Mavs in round number 1, but also keep in mind, the Clippers have been taking some of these games off with their superstars here. How much do they value that 4 seed and the 5 seed as opposed to we're completely healthy going into the playoffs? That's something to watch again this weekend. Intrigue all the way around.
And we showed you the play-in tournament standings earlier in the opening hour, but the Pelicans control their fate for the 6th seed to stay out of the play-in, a game in front of Phoenix. Major League Baseball with Jack McMullen next.
If you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like C.J. Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or in your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals, saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hovland right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like, I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
We are officially past the 2-week point of this Major League Baseball season. Yesterday was that 2-week mark from the full opening day, which was March 28th. So what have we learned in the first 14, 15 days of this MLB campaign? Jack McMullen is live right here on this Friday morning on the early line to tell us just that. Of course, doing great work with Just Baseball Media and the play-by-play voice of the Pirates, who are off to a good start. AAA affiliate, the Indianapolis Indians in Indy. And today, a big day for Jack on the call. Paul Skeens will make a start in Indianapolis. So, Jack, we appreciate your time on what will be a very busy but exciting Friday for you.
Happy Skeens Day to all who celebrate. Yeah, what's the saying? It's not the moments we had, it's the friends we made along the way. Like, yeah, I don't know. I felt like you were doing a play on that. I don't know the exact saying though, so you got to check me on that.
I think that is exactly what it is. It's not exactly the memories that we have, but the friends we made along the way. But this is going to be memorable regardless of how you slice it. So, Jack, let's go back to yesterday. A shorter slate with some weather postponements around Major League Baseball. But in the games we saw, a lot of offense, namely in Kansas City. At Kauffman, the Royals score 9 in the first inning, and they sweep the Astros in a 3-game midweek set. 13-3 in the finale. Bobby Witt Jr., have yourself a day. 4 for 5, 2 home runs, 4 runs scored, 5 ribbies for the guy that got paid this offseason, and it's paying off already for the Royals. They've won 7 straight games, Jack. They've won 9 of their last 11. Is this start for Kansas City sustainable and legit for all 162?
Good question. I'm going to give you the high school English teacher answer, yes and no. And it's for you to decide the severity of it. 7 straight is crazy. And who thought we would be talking about the Royals as the story of baseball on April 12th? I did not think we'd be talking about the Kansas City Royals like this. And I know they had a really nice offseason, right? They went and spent on pitching. They got Michael Wacha. They got Seth Lugo. They got Will Smith in free agency. And they paid Bobby Witt Jr. So you think, okay, they're gearing up to try and not be a bottom dweller. This is way better than a bottom dweller. This is way better than middle of the pack. Bobby Witt Jr. is playing like a top 5 player in baseball right now. And he is hitting the ball hard everywhere, all the time. If you look at average exit velo or even just like hard hit balls, 95 plus, he's leading the league by a wide margin. He's playing like a man possessed right now. And he's got the complementary characters, man. Like MJ Melendez is playing out of his mind right now. Salvador Perez is hitting again. He's turning the clock back. Nelson Velasquez, who was acquired for a reliever who the Cubs just sent down to AAA, has an OPS over 900 in the early goings. Not to mention, they got a guy with 2 Tommy Johns under his belt and Cole Reagans for Aroldis Chapman at last year's deadline. And now Reagans looks like one of the better left-handers in the American League. The Royals are a story that I think some people saw was coming to maybe 20% of the severity of how it's come at this point. And I will tell you, that was a tough one to watch because on the Just Baseball show coming into the year, I said multiple times, if I'm betting on one guy to break out this year, it's Astros right-hander Hunter Brown. So that really hurt me.
Yeah, he broke out the opposite way yesterday. But the Royals, this isn't even luck, Jack, that we're looking at. You're talking about a run differential plus 39, the best in Major League Baseball, 72 runs scored. Now, on the flip side, the team they just hammered was the Houston Astros. Coming into the season, the odds-on favorite to be the best team in the American League here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Now, when we're taking a look at the Astros side of things, where do they go from here?
Dude, I have no idea. And I think they might just go to bed and try and start again tomorrow. Like that kind of thing. It's one of those where you're waiting on Justin Verlander to get right. He's on a rehab in AAA right now. So Verlander comes back. Luis Garcia should be back around the All-Star break. It's not like you can point to your future Hall of Fame caliber player in Jose Altuve and it's like, hey, man, do better. Guy's hitting 370 in the first 2 weeks of the season. Yeah. It really is, to me, the pitching. And you spent big on a bullpen piece in Josh Hader. And you put together like the best big three that we've seen on paper in quite some time in Brian Abreu and Ryan Presley and Josh Hader. And all three of those guys have been disappointing in the Astros bullpen. So, all right, you've got Framber Valdez go down with elbow issues. I hope it's not TJ, but like it feels like we are hitting the fever point of pitcher elbow issues right now. So you just kind of brace for the worst and you're pleasantly surprised with anything else. But I mean, if they are without Framber Valdez for an extended period of time, you got to rely on a guy in Ronel Blanco who, yes, just threw a no-hitter. Yes, just took a no-hitter into the sixth, but he's a rookie at 30. Like, you have to rely on that guy, and you have to rely on the bottom of your batting order helping out the top. And you're not relying on that bullpen that you just spent a lot of money on, and you're relying on to be the best back end in baseball. So it's bizarre. We're 14 games in. Last time I checked, this season lasts 162 of those. So there's a lot of time. Having said that, this is a nightmarish start because you really can't point to much individually and say you're the problem.
Houston 4-10, currently in the cellar of the 5 teams in the American League West. The Astros will host for the second time this year, at least in a series, against their in-state and divisional foe, the Texas Rangers, starting today. The Astros, a home favorite. The odds makers still very much look at Houston in a positive manner. And to Jack's point, 14 games out of 162, a long time to rectify the issues. But Jack, as we look at the American League West between these two divisional foes that face off today in H-Town, the Astros still the favorites at plus 115. Texas, the reigning World Series champs, the only team with an above 500 record at this moment in this division. So, at a certain point, do we look to the Rangers for value, or do we expect the Astros to regress in a positive way to the mean?
I mean, it's not like Seattle's making this interesting either. Like, they're 5-8 right now, so it's a toughie. I would probably get in on the Astros while you can, because that bullpen is too good on paper. For them to falter for the entire year. And then, the offense, like you've got pieces in droves. Now, having said that, the Rangers have a lot of people coming back in the rotation in the same way that the Astros do. You're expecting Verlander back and Luis Garcia back. On the Rangers side, you're getting Jacob deGrom, Tyler Mahle, Max Scherzer back at some point this year. And varying points throughout the year, surely. But I don't know. It's tough. Those two are still the big two, in my opinion, the runaway. And Seattle's offense has not instilled much confidence in me whatsoever to think that, they're a piece of that and can contend for a division title.
Jack, taking a look here at a battle of first-place teams today on a Friday. Some wet and windy conditions expected in Cleveland today. It's going to be Schmidt versus Carrasco, favorite here to the New York Yankees. Talk about both of these teams also, maybe what you're thinking is going to happen tonight between these two ball clubs.
Yeah, I love this weekend set. It's going to be great. And I think we've got Nestor Cortez and Tristan McKenzie coming up a little bit later this weekend, which will be awesome. Or I think it's Luis Heel and Tristan McKenzie. And Heel's been throwing the ball well, like he's really just fighting himself. I think these offenses are clicking in very different ways. And you talk about team identity. The Yankees over the last couple of years have been, long ball, long ball, long ball, and that's kind of it. And then you go to Cleveland, and they're going to kill you with a million paper cuts. Now, Cleveland is starting to hit the ball a little bit harder, and the Yankees are starting to get on base a little bit more. And in large part, that's thanks to number 22 in pinstripes. But I think this is a battle of two teams that have injected a fresh life into their identity this year. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be an exciting series. I give the pitching edge actually to the Yankees with the Yankee bullpen. But, man, this is going to be a whale of a series. It's in Cleveland, right?
Correct.
It is in Cleveland,
yes.
If you're in the Cleveland area, get out there. Have some fun.
Listen, the Yanks now a co-favorite to win the pennant, but these two teams, two best records in the American League. New York 10-3, Cleveland 9-3. Skeens Day for Jack McMullen. We appreciate the time. We're back on the early line up next.
If you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like C.J. Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or in your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hovland right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I'm losing my mind. I'm speaking with guys on this network that I used to respect their opinions, and I just can't anymore. It's one thing for the alleged mouth in the South to say certain things yesterday and for Donnie to play the heel. But for our basketball guy, for our coach to say that Kentucky is not a top 3 job in college basketball.
Look at the poll.
I don't know, man. DRS, take it from here. I guess we got to talk the playoff picture in the East. I don't know. Go ahead.
Exactly. JY, before we start off talking about the playoffs in the East here, I mean, it's an agreement here. The public knows it. The smart people know it. Kentucky's just not desirable here. You can throw as much money as you want at the Kentucky position. We're not going to take it here. Nate Oates, better job in Alabama right now. He can relax. Drew down at Baylor, better job here. Even UConn sits there in Storrs, Connecticut, and we're sitting back going, you know what? I'm not going to Kentucky for what? If Coach Cal couldn't make it happen in Kentucky, why would I want to go to Kentucky where they'll throw me out in 3 years and then I got to go coach like Lemoyne State here to try to rebuild my image and try to get back to major Division I basketball here? Nobody wants Kentucky here. Nobody.
Okay. All right. Bobby the Brain Heenan, don't make this seem like it's like the 50th best job in the country.
It is. It's basically Division III.
I tell you what, the guy Ben's gonna have a coronary right now on set. Listen, all I'm saying is Duke, Carolina, Kansas. Kentucky's still a top 5 job. I just think, listen, yes, Ben made a great point. He made a great point. Scott Drew didn't take the job.
Oh my God!
But Mark Few didn't. But what? Listen, you mean to tell me that Nate Oates actually believes that Alabama's a better job than Kentucky? The fact that John Calipari took a $1 million pay cut to run away from Kentucky to go to another job. I think
what is the argument? What is the argument? Give me a good argument. Donnie's playing heel. Give me a good argument why Kentucky is not a top 3 job in the country. Because everything you've said so far doesn't back you up. But go ahead.
Duke, Carolina, Kansas. Are they better jobs?
Right. And by the way, so JY, who are the 2 coaches for Carolina and Duke?
Oh, John Shire and Hubert Davis.
Right. And where were they before they were hired at their current post?
They were assistant coaches. I get it. But if they went outside the family,
they were on the bench of the legacy plan to be elevated at the place they played college basketball. So let me ask a second question. If Mark Pope, who won a championship at Kentucky, was on Cal's staff for the past 5 years and not making BYU basketball into a perennial top 20 team in KenPom, would we say this is a top 3 job in college basketball?
Let me ask you this. Does Mark Pope move the needle enough for the Kentucky fan base?
Of course not. But that's not the argument. That's not the argument.
Here's the argument. If they went outside the family, right? If Carolina or Duke went outside the family, is that a better job than Kentucky? Is that a better job than Kentucky? In your opinion?
I agree that Duke and Carolina and Kentucky are the 3 best jobs in college basketball. And Kansas is probably right there as well to round out our top 4, and then we can put in whoever top 5 is. But JY, your argument is people don't want the job because it's too much pressure. Do you think in Lawrence, Kansas, if you didn't win a national championship or reach a Sweet 16 for 5 consecutive years, there would not be pressure on the head coach inside the fog? Come on. Pressure is why the job is elite. Pressure is why it's one of the best jobs, because your expectation is a national championship in Final Four. And the idea that they ran Calipari out of town. John Calipari hasn't made a Sweet 16 since 2019. John Calipari has not brought Kentucky to a Final Four since 2015. That's why he's out of town. Goodness gracious. I'm losing my mind.
If you ask Kentucky fans right now, would they rather have Coach Cal back than Mark Pope? They would take him back and say, double his salary. My goodness, Cal, why did we let you go?
I don't think
the reason being right now, if this was a top 3 position, you would have Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, and Jay Wright getting phone calls and saying, you know what?
Stop. Come
this
on,
might
man.
be
No,
pretty
you
good to go to.
They walked away from the game because of the current
Mark
climate.
Pope. You got a coach that most people go, who is that here? In Kentucky, I would love to be on Sports Talk Radio today in Kentucky, because those people are literally walking out going, I'm giving up. I don't want my tickets anymore. Rupp Arena, we are the new Louisville right now at this point. That's what they're thinking right now. We couldn't even attract a legit coach. You couldn't even attract one.
Listen, Scott Drew turned down Louisville as well for what it is worth. Secondly, I'm not going to argue that the hire of Mark Pope is not as sexy as a Billy Donovan or a Scott Drew or, of course, a Dan Hurley. But the idea that Kentucky is not a top 3 job in college basketball or top 5, or as Donnie and Mark Zinno tried to tell me yesterday, not top 10 in the country is ridiculous. And if the argument is because the pressure to win a national championship is too much for some of these big names, get out of town with that.
That's a big reason. That's a big reason. Why would you leave? Why these guys aren't leaving their programs, because they're legends where they're already at, and they might make a Final Four once every 5 years. Why go to Kentucky with that pressure and get blown away there? Billy Gillispie got blown out in 2 years. They hated Tubby back in the day, too, and that guy won national championships. Calipari won a national championship, and they chased him out of here. That's why if I'm another coach going like, that's not a top job for me.
He won a national championship in 2012. That's over a decade ago. One.
Most schools would take that in a heartbeat. It's like, man, Coach Cal's bringing in top-level recruits every single year. No, the pressure is not worth the hype at Kentucky. It's a pro basketball team playing in college basketball.
We have a graphic.
That's why they got Mark Pope. We have a graphic. They're not a top job. That's why they got him.
We have a graphic that displays Kentucky's pantheon in college basketball, where they have won the second most national championships in history. Exactly. It's not in modern times. 2012 is a long time ago in this juncture. UConn has won 3 national championships in that span.
They've only won 1 national championship since 2012. How's it a top job? You just answered your own question. Back in the day, it was a top job. You just answered your own question. It's not a great job then because they haven't won in 10 years.
Exactly. So Baylor's a top 3 job because they won 2 years ago? That's what you say?
For a coach, yes.
Villanova's a top 5 job?
Years and not get pressured to get fired. You're talking about guys. If it was such a great job,
it's one of the craziest arguments ever. It's one of the craziest arguments ever.
Tomorrow, no, it's not. The evidence speaks to that. You got Mark Pope.
DRS,
come on now.
DRS. To be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, maybe the biggest one out there, comes with a lot of pressure. If you don't bring returns to your company in 2 years, you are going to be kicked out. But making $15 million a year is not a top job? In our industry,
I'm going
to be the host of whatever you want to say,
if I have a CEO job where I know I can stay for 20 years and be a legend, I'm going to stay at that school. Why would I move over and get canned in 2 years because I don't have the top country?
Calipari was there for 15 years. Yeah. He was there for 15 years. They didn't run him out of town. They ran him out of town after he did not make the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. The second weekend for 5 years. Call your timeout, JY. What?
All I'm saying is top 4. I love you guys. You're both making great points. But listen, I'm going to just leave it with this. The team with the most Final Fours and national championships is UCLA. Where do we put that as regards to top jobs in the country?
Probably one of the top 10.
Okay. So you say, listen, you say, hold on. You listen, you say 3, I say 4. We're not that far apart. Okay, Donnie is saying outside top 10. That's a little bit wild.
I never said outside top. I'm just using that as a baseboard there. Kentucky is not a top job. Top job to me is top 5. And top job means you get the best candidates breaking down your door to try to get that job. And you saw the best candidates run away from Kentucky. So for me, that can't be described as a top job anymore. That's all.
I don't think he's talking.
This whole argument started because JY came in with a heated take that Kentucky's not a top 3 job, and he wants to say it's 4th best. JY, how's the Eastern Conference look to you entering this final weekend?
Let's go, Knicks. Come on, Knicks.
Listen, the Eastern Conference, you got me so flustered. The Eastern Conference is going to be an absolute dogfight. To me, when you look at the East, guys, you got a lot to play for these last couple of games, right? Obviously, Knicks with a big win last night in Boston. And let's be honest, the Knicks won that win because the Knicks don't want any part of the Celtics. They want to make sure they finish in that 2 or 3 spot. Obviously, 2 games left to play. I think the intriguing case needs to be still made with Philadelphia. Philadelphia has got 35 losses, is 1 behind Indiana and Orlando. So there's a lot of teams that are jockeying for that spot to get into the top 6. And then there's obviously Cleveland, a team that's, won their last game, hasn't played well as of late. There's going to be a lot of jockeying position from 4 to 6. But then again, folks, the Knicks lose a couple in a row. They could drop to 6. So It's Ben. It's going to be a wild weekend in the NBA in regards to who ends up where.
Love it.
DRS?
Love it. Come on. Now let's get back to Kentucky here. Now, what are we talking? Top 5, top 6, top 7, coach. Where do we go from here at this point here now? Forget about the NBA. It's all Kentucky all the time. It's Big Blue Nation Radio right here as we speak it into existence here. That topic is
honestly
much
might as well be.
Talk about, coach.
Honestly, I just feel like, you know, our guy, Big Ten Ben, I love him. He's a dear friend. I've never seen him so animated. And right when we calm him down, you try to get him going again. What do you want?
Of course he does.
To fight? Do you just want us to fight during a commercial break? Like, this is my guy.
You should see our ratings in Kentucky right now. I mean, we might move all our studios to Kentucky. We're so in bed with the Big Blue Nation right now. It's got to be sky high right now. That's why the conversation is great.
Listen.
Who would talk about it on a Friday? We do this in a big way. This is what we do. Yes.
Listen, we have so much NBA to fire through in the next 14 minutes. It's crazy. So we will do that here to set up the final weekend of this regular season. You guys do this to me. I haven't felt this flustered or my heart rate this elevated since the whole Florida State college football playoff conversation. And it's because of that guy in blue over there. That does it to me. We're back on the early line up next.
Oh, wait, this side.
Yeah.
If you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like C.J. Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or in your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hovland right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like, I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
No more Kentucky talk for about 15 minutes, which is good. My heart rate needs to come down. It's the final weekend of the NBA regular season. Just 3 days remain in the regular season before the postseason gets underway next week. Today, tomorrow, and regular season finale Sunday. On this Friday, we have 30 NBA teams, all 30 around the association in action with so much to figure out. JY, we start with the Milwaukee Bucks. We learned earlier this week that Giannis Antetokounmpo will not be available for the remainder of this regular season. They hope to have him back early on in the playoffs. Milwaukee was on a slide. Now they've won 2 straight games, and they have a game lead in front of the New York Knicks for the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. With Giannis's status, though, based on the injured calf, very much up in the air, what is your outlook for Milwaukee moving forward?
I don't think it's great, Ben, and I think it's really going to depend on their first-round matchup. I know this sounds crazy. If I'm Milwaukee and I'm the 2, I want no part of Philadelphia or Miami, where it lines up right now. What you need to hope to happen, honestly, is Indiana to drop down or Orlando to drop down in the next couple of days and get a team possibly with less experience in the first round, maybe hoping that the moment is too big for them. Obviously Milwaukee has been playing better as of late, but it's kind of a tricky stretch right now, Ben, because the last 2 games that they have, right, Milwaukee are Oklahoma City and Orlando. An Oklahoma City team that right now is tied in the loss column with Minnesota. They try to get the 2 seed so that they can have home court advantage in a possible semifinal matchup. And Orlando right now that's got 34 losses, 1 ahead of Philadelphia and Miami, 1 ahead of Philadelphia. So they need to win as well. Tough stretch for Milwaukee. No easy games the last 2.
No, certainly not. And also, Coach, that other team you're just talking about, the Philadelphia 76ers, when it's all said and done, I expect them to have an 8-game win streak entering into the playoffs. They're going to take on the Orlando Magic and the Brooklyn Nets. I think that's a 2-0 sweep for them, which I think should be able to get them out of that 7 seed and at least into the 6 seed. So if we're looking at the Philadelphia 76ers, just a few short weeks ago, close to a 40-1 price here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Now you're taking a look there at that 19-1. So basically cut in half to be NBA champions. We're not saying they're going to do that, but talk to me about the Philadelphia 76ers with Joel Embiid looking MVP good right now, Coach.
He is, Donnie, and if you really think about it, folks, before Joel Embiid got hurt, you would arguably say that the Philadelphia 76ers were the second best team in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion, until he got hurt. So to me, getting him back, and you'll see that price. If they move up to 6, that 8-1 may go to 6-1. To 5-1, because just for the simple fact that they're out of the play-in tournament and they're going to get a matchup versus New York. Listen, I'm a Knicks fan. I know that the Knicks have owned the Philadelphia 76ers during the regular season. It don't mean jack when the playoffs come. And Joel Embiid, if he stays healthy, makes that team as dangerous as anybody to come. They can pick up Milwaukee, and then maybe you get the matchup I thought we were going to get all along, which is Boston, Philadelphia, Eastern Conference Finals.
The battle of 2-3 for those seed lines in the Eastern Conference while you're watching what Philly does at 7 and maybe Indiana at 6 is going to be fascinating theater here down this final weekend of the NBA regular season because you're on the other side of the Eastern Conference playoff bracket from the Boston Celtics. Speaking of the team currently in the 3 spot in the Eastern Conference, that's the New York Knicks, winners of 3 in a row, led by Jalen Brunson. 5 straight games of 35-plus points. They got dealt a pretty big blow, and they've been banged up in large part for the second half of this season. And we got confirmation about a week and a half ago that Julius Randle would not be here even for the playoffs. But, JY, when you look at the New York Knicks, in the way this team is currently constructed, can the Knickerbockers make a deep run come playoff time?
It all depends on the matchup, guys. And I'm going to be dead honest with you. I think they can get out of the first round. Listen, do I think they can beat Philadelphia? No. Do I think they can beat Cleveland? Yes. I think they can beat Orlando. Can they beat Milwaukee? I think so. Listen, here's the thing with the Knicks. Jalen Brunson has been the best free agent signing the Knicks have had since Bernard King, right? If you look at what this guy has done, elevating this team. I mean, guys, if you watched the game last night, it didn't matter who it was. Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White. He cooked all of them. All of them. So his play has been dynamic. Now, my question is can OJ stay healthy? right? Can the rest of these guys who are playing, like Deontay DiVincenzo, who are playing out of his mind, can they do it in a big spot in the playoffs? It all depends on the matchup. But the one thing you know about New York and Tom Thibodeau is they'll play as hard as anybody, and they'll defend you, and they will be prepared.
We're taking a look here at those Eastern Conference standings here, and we really want to zero into 5, 6, and 7. That's your Orlando Magic, the Indiana Pacers, and the Philadelphia 76ers. Also keep in mind, the Magic, I should say, are hoping that we get a tie because the Sixers would end up losing out on the tiebreaker in a three-way tie. But in a tiebreaker just with the Magic, the Philadelphia 76ers would have that and also have a game against the Orlando Magic coming up. So a little topsy-turvy there. But if we're taking a look at the actual odds to win the East here, it's the Boston Celtics at a minus 185 price. But the intrigue then comes, Coach, where the Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers sit at the FanDuel Sportsbook. A 7-1 price on the Bucks, who currently are the 2 seed. The Sixers currently the 7 seed at an 8-1 price. Those numbers could change based on the statistics that come this weekend with wins or losses by either one of those clubs. So is there value? Let's take the Celtics out of the equation, Coach. Is there value on another team here to win the East that you think you can make money with?
I think it's Philadelphia, provided they listen. As long as they don't end up in that 7-8 game, because guys, I'll be honest with you, Miami in a 7-8 game, 1-game scenario with Spoelstra, I'm nervous. But if I'm not mistaken, last year they lost a 7-8 game and had to turn around and win to get into the playoffs. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken. So to me, Miami is extremely dangerous. But Philadelphia, if you want to grab them now. Because if they move up to 6, I think that 8-1 goes to 6 or 5-1, and they're going to jump Milwaukee because of JoJo Embiid and the fact that they don't have to deal with the play-in tournament.
Unlike your Kentucky takes, both of you are making great points about the Sixers' value right now in the Eastern Conference. DRS had been saying that, though, for a while. 31-1 was the number he highlighted for Philadelphia to win the NBA championship just about 2.5 weeks ago, with the optimistic reports that Joel Embiid could return by the end of the regular season, even ahead of schedule, and it's paid off for Philly, winners of 6 in a row. Now we go over to the Western Conference standings, where a lot more is up in the air, even at the top. We've got to figure out who's going to be the 1 seed, how 2 and 3 are going to fall between more than likely the Timberwolves and the Thunder, and who gets home floor advantage in a playoff series we already know in the opening round. That's the 4-5 matchup between the Clippers and the Mavericks, but will the series be in Dallas to begin or out in Los Angeles? JY, let's go to the top spot. Denver Nuggets, a huge victory earlier this week at home, at altitude against the Minnesota Timberwolves to have that game advantage for the number 1 overall seed for the reigning NBA champs. As we look at the remaining schedule for the Nuggets, T-Wolves, and Thunder, Denver, despite being both on the road, incredibly beneficial. Will the Nuggets, by the time we reach Sunday night in the end of the regular season, be the top overall seed in the Western Conference?
Yes, because if they lose to Memphis or San Antonio, let's be honest, Ben, they don't deserve the 1 seed if they lose one of those 2 games, even on the road. So I think they become the 1 seed. The intrigue obviously goes to 2, right? When you look at Minnesota and you look at OKC, it's kind of interesting to look at a team like Minnesota. They got Phoenix. Well, Phoenix is in a dogfight, right? Because they're going to try and get to 6. So they need to try and turn around and win that game. And then Atlanta, which I don't think they could pass Chicago because I think they're 2 games behind. So that could be a rest game. So that doesn't mean much. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City has Dallas, who may try to see if they can catch the Clippers for home court advantage. By the way, I can't wait for that series because Luka hates the Clippers more than any team in the league. So that's going to be outstanding cinema. But then you look at the fact of Milwaukee. That's a game that's going to mean something because the Knicks may be trying to chase to get to 2. So to me, it's intriguing to me, but I still think it's probably going to end up in that same order. Denver 1, 2 Minnesota, 3 OKC in the Western Conference.
We take a look at that Western Conference, Coach, and again, a lot of things still up in the air. 6 through 10, Pelicans, Suns, Kings, Warriors, and Lakers. Let's put the focus on the Lakers, who now look like they might wind up in the 10th seed overall. Give me a look at the Los Angeles Lakers. If they are the 10th seed, the chance to actually climb in to that top 8 when it's all said and done in this play-in round.
Well, if you look at that schedule, obviously the last 2 games I'm looking at the Lakers right now, they have the Pelicans and they have the Grizzlies. So obviously one game is going to mean a ton. Second game, not so much. So a Lakers team, guys, that's been wildly inconsistent. We don't know if Anthony Davis in the playoffs, guys, he can put together monumental performances and they can pull up a performance that's an absolute stinker. Do I trust the Lakers to win 2 games in a row, potentially on the road? Guys, I don't. I know that sounds a wild take, but they're just so wildly inconsistent, particularly shooting the ball. And you've seen that they have, in my opinion, completely turned off the Darvin Ham. I would be stunned if this guy has a job next year in Los Angeles, particularly if LeBron comes back. So I don't have a great outlook on the Lakers, to be honest with you, because you're asking them to win 2. Now, your hope is someone like Sacramento, who lost again last night. But here's the thing. One of their games is against Portland. So they are another team not playing well. I think the losses of Huerter and Monk hurt a lot more than people think.
All 3 of those teams currently tied at 45 and 35. The Kings, Dubs, and Lakers all have won what is a difficult game, at least on paper, in one game against an easier opponent who has already been eliminated from playoff contention. So, JY, when you look at Sacramento, Golden State, and LA. Let's highlight the Warriors first. Since Draymond Green returned in the middle of January, this team is above 500. They were 18 and 21 before Draymond returned from his suspension or punishment or whatever you want to call it from the NBA. And Golden State, as of this moment, with the victory last night on the road in Portland, has won 9 of their last 10 games. If you had to pick 2 teams out of the current 4 in the play-in tournament standings, Suns, Kings, Warriors, Lakers, to get into the playoffs, who are those 2 teams you highlight?
Well, I'm going to first go off with the Phoenix Suns. I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I know they've been wildly inconsistent, but obviously that big 3, if they are in that 7th spot just to win 1 game at home, I do like their chances. And then I'm going to go with Golden State. Why? You said it, 9 out of 10, playing their best basketball of the year. Klay Thompson, all of a sudden coming off the bench, being the Klay that we thought we were going to get. Why, folks? He wants more money. His contract's up at the end of this year. As long as Draymond doesn't completely torpedo this team, and you never know, it could happen, Golden State should be that 8th team in the West, which has set up a fascinating matchup of Denver versus Golden State in the first round of the playoffs. That would be absolute cinema.
Cinema indeed from JY. 27-1, by the way, for the LA Lakers. At this moment, 8th best number, but in front of the Pelicans and the Kings, who both actually are in front of the Lakers at this moment in the Western Conference standings. JY told you, not a big believer in Los Angeles. And out of the play-in tournament teams, the Lakers have the worst price to make the playoffs, to win at least 1 or maybe 2 games in the play-in tournament. So much to figure out in these seed lines. JY, thank you for not being scared off by us getting derailed with our Kentucky debates and firing through around the association to set up this final weekend of the NBA regular season.
I love you guys. My guys.
Yeah. Now we have to talk about the Kentucky job again. Next.
Not even.
If you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like C.J. Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or in your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hovland right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like, I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
How long can I filibuster to not get to the Fade the Public poll? We've got a couple of Masters updates to bring you to here to end out our number 2 on this Friday on the early line. Tiger Woods did finish with a bogey on his 18th hole of his opening round, 1 over 73 in his first 18 holes. Quick turnaround for Tiger and the boys. They're back out on the course in just about 20 minutes. Max Homa, best round of that group of 3, 5 under in his opening 18. Cam Davis making a charge early into round number 2, 2 under in his opening 6 holes. He's 5 under par, but we can officially call it. Bryson DeChambeau, your round 1 leader at the 2024 Masters, 7 under 65. Anything else from Augusta, Donnie, you want to talk about?
Does Tiger put red on today, Ben, just to try to make it into the weekend? Is his new reality of let's just finish golf tournaments, let's not win them here? So all eyes on Tiger today. Let's see what he can do because he's in the hunt to make the cut, no doubt about it.
89 golfers at the 88th playing of this Masters tournament. Tiger Woods 1 over par right now, tied 36. Cut line as of this moment is at 2 over. Tiger on the right side. Got some work to do here, though, on this Friday, now that round number 2 is officially underway at Augusta National. All right, we wanted to hear from you about the Kentucky job. It's Fade the Public. My worst nightmare is realized at SportsGrid. Is Kentucky a top 3 coaching job in college basketball? 60% of the public says no. Donnie Rightside voted yes, but 60% of the public says no.
Exactly, and I just like to double down. Like I just got a text message from one Kevin Walsh that said, Donnie, you are the man. Great takes there. I just can't let Ben know that I'm on your side, and Kentucky is not a top 3 job. So everybody seeming outside of Ben Stevens here at the SportsGrid Network and the public realize Kentucky just not a top job anymore. It's just what it is.
Well, geez. We'll talk about it up next when hour number 3 starts here on this Friday. My monotone voice is not having fun. Hour 3 starts in 55 seconds. No. Fourth best job.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.